Thank you, Mr. Speaker, elders, survivors, guests, and members of this chamber. I am humbled today to speak about a tragedy widely known as the 60 Scoop. This wide-scale national apprehension of Indigenous children by child welfare agencies removed thousands of children from their families and communities. Je me présente avec humilité aujourd'hui pour parler de la tragédie connue sous le nom 60 Scoop. Cette appréhension à échelle nationale d'enfants autochtones par notre système social a enlevé des milliers d'enfants de leur famille et de leur communauté. These children were placed in non-Aboriginal homes across Canada, the United States, and even overseas. While some adoptive families took steps to provide culturally appropriate supports to adopted children, the 60 Scoop is recognized as a practice of a forced assimilation, and one that extended well beyond the 1960s. There is not an Indigenous person in this country who has not been affected by the residential schools legacy, and the number of Indigenous people affected by the 60 Scoop is also very large. Across Canada, the number of adoptees is estimated to exceed 20,000 First Nation, Métis, and Inuit children. By separating these children from their families, they were stripped of their culture, language, and traditions. Judge Edwin Kimmelman, and the author of the 1985 report, No Quiet Place, on the child welfare system and how it affected Aboriginal people, described the 60 Scoop as cultural genocide, the very term that Chief Justice Beverly McLaughlin and Commissioner Murray Sinclair used to describe the residential school system. It is important that we acknowledge and appreciate the meaning of that description. The reality is that, like the residential schools, the effects of the 60 Scoop remain with us today. The human impact on families and communities are profound and cannot be easily reconciled. The 60 Scoop must now be recognized for the harm it caused and continues to cause. Many of the adoptees experienced profound shocks as they lost their heritage, language, families, and their identity. Many of those who later returned to their communities as adults found it equally challenging to rebuild their relationships and connect with their culture. Today, as Premier, I would like to apologize on behalf of the province of Manitoba for the 60 Scoop, the practice of removing First Nation, Métis, and Inuit children from their families and placing them for adoption in non-Indigenous homes, sometimes far from their home community, and for the losses of culture and identity to the children and their families and communities. It was a practice that has left intergenerational scars and cultural loss. With these words of apology and regret, I hope that all Canadians will join me in recognizing this historic injustice. I hope they will join me in acknowledging the pain and suffering of the thousands of children who were taken from their homes. As Justice Sinclair has said, an apology without a change in behavior is meaningless, and all levels of government need to admit their responsibility. We have made progress on missing and murdered Indigenous women and children. All Canadian provinces now support a national inquiry on this issue and have committed to holding another national roundtable within 2 years. We now want to see national recognition brought to the 60 Scoop, and today we commit to raising this important issue at the next national roundtable. We also know that education about the 60 Scoop and its impact on First Nation, Métis, and Inuit children needs to be part of education curriculums across the country. In Manitoba, we will be doing exactly that. In closing, I would like to once again apologize on behalf of the province to the innocent children and their families for this practice that, in the words of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, removed thousands of Aboriginal children from their families and communities and placed them in non-Aboriginal homes without taking steps to preserve their culture and their identity. We look forward to further leadership on residential schools and the 60 Scoop from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission this fall in their final report. Ekosane, Miigwech, Masichu, Mutna, Wopida, Hai Hai, merci, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.